I thought the new Philips Hue Sync Box 8K would finally be the one Hue setup I could just use for everything. After testing it against the free Hue Sync PC app and the Hue Sync TV app, it turns out there still isn't a perfect option. One gives me the fastest response, one avoids using my PC for the processing, and finally one is easily the cleanest and most convenient solution. But on my Samsung S90H right now, that one is also the slowest. So rather than just looking at the lighting and saying this one feels faster, I calculated the response differences, benchmarked how much performance the PC app can cost, and tested the Sync Box against the TV app again on PS5. And some of the differences were a lot bigger than I expected. So if you are trying to figure out which Hue Sync solution actually makes sense for your setup, hopefully this makes the decision a lot easier. Just to be clear, this is the newer HDMI 2.1 version, not the original Sync Box. So this one is their latest release. You've got 4 HDMI inputs, HDMI 2.1, support for 8K at 60Hz and 4K at 120Hz. I originally got it mainly because I wanted a hardware-based solution for my PC. My PC goes into the Sync Box and from there into my Samsung S90H 42-inch OLED. This is a 2026 4K TV capable of running at up to 165Hz. And this is where I found my first problem. If I leave Windows at the full 165Hz and try to start Hue synchronization through the box, it just doesn't work. You can see that the app is telling me that light synchronization isn't supported with the current signal. And that surprised me a little because this is the newer HDMI 2.1 Sync Box 8K. Now Philips officially advertises the box 8K 60Hz and 4K 120Hz. But they actually managed to push it further after launch through a firmware update. Firmware version 2.5.0 released in April 2025 adds support for 144Hz light synchronization. And my box is fully updated to that firmware, even newer beyond that. So if I go into Windows, change the TV from 165Hz down to 144Hz or below, start the sync, and there we go. Now everything works. If I leave my display at the full 165Hz, the video still passes through the Sync Box normally. That's the frustrating part. The box can clearly pass the 4K 165Hz signal, so you can still see the display, but the light sync processing is limited to 144Hz. HDMI 2.1 itself has enough bandwidth for much higher 4K refresh rates. For example, with DSC, 4K 240Hz is possible. So the limitation here is the hue itself, like the sync process, not the video pass-through. So you can still see display even if you have it beyond 144Hz using the Sync Box itself, but you just can't use Hue Sync with it. Now for gaming consoles, I don't really see this as a big problem. Something like a PS5 at 4K 120Hz feeds the Sync Box really well. But for PC gaming though, it bothers me so much because we're already seeing plenty of 4K TVs nowadays running at 165Hz. And 4K 240Hz is becoming increasingly common for flagship PC gaming monitors. I just don't really want an expensive box to be the reason I can't use the full refresh rate of that display, especially when it comes to a future-proof device. Which made me think, why am I even using the Sync Box on PC? Because Philips already gives you the Hue Sync desktop app for free. And with that desktop app, the PC itself analyzes what's happening on screen. So on my setup, I can leave the S90H running at its full 165Hz, start Hue Sync, and everything works normally. And you still get different sync modes, intensity, brightness, and all the normal Hue Sync controls. There is another nice advantage: the app can integrate with third-party applications like Corsair IQ and Razer. So if you already have compatible RGB hardware, you can bring your PC and peripheral lighting into the experience as well. When everything around the setup is reacting together, it can look really great. There is one limitation worth mentioning though, especially if you use your PC for streaming, movies, or other protected content, because the desktop app works through screen capture. DRM protected content can sometimes prevent synchronization from working properly. The Sync Box doesn't rely on desktop screen capture because it's analyzing the HDMI signal externally. So there are still situations where the hardware solution has an advantage. But for gaming, the desktop app is seriously good. The thing I wanted to know was what that software was actually costing me. Because if you go into the Hue Sync settings, you will find 3 CPU performance options: low, normal, and high. So clearly the PC itself is doing additional work in the background. We'll come back to that and benchmark it properly because we still have our third option. And this is actually the one I wanted to like the most, which is the Hue Sync TV app. On compatible Samsung and LG TVs, Hue Sync can run directly on the television. And that gives it one huge advantage over the other two solutions. It can sync with whatever the TV itself is displaying. If you are using a native smart TV app playing on a gaming console through HDMI, got your PC connected, it can sync. Whereas with the physical sync box, the content has to actually pass through that HDMI box. If I'm watching something directly through an app built into the TV, the sync box never sees that video signal, so it can't synchronize with it. The TV app doesn't have that problem. And on my S90H, I can also leave the TV running at its full 165Hz while using the TV app. So I'm not dealing with the external sync box 144Hz limitation either. That's why this solution makes so much sense to me. The catch is that unlike the desktop app, the TV app isn't free. At 2.99 bucks or 2.99 euro per month, or around 130 as a one-time purchase. And if you are considering the one-time option on a Samsung TV, there is an important detail. That purchase is tied to that specific TV, so if you replace that TV later, you can simply transfer the one-time purchase to the new TV. But lately, something about the app on my S90H just hasn't felt right. Even the interface itself has become sluggish. You can see it here. There is this delay that happens before it reacts. It just doesn't feel as immediate as I remember it being before. I've deleted and reinstalled the app. I've cleared memory on the TV. I did like cleaning cache, all the things that are recommended usually to make sure that the performance is great. The latest Samsung Hue Sync TV release listed while I'm making this video is version 1.10.66. There are no updates from 5th August 2026 with bug fixes and stability improvements. So this isn't some abandoned application. This could be specific to my S90H 42-inch. So let me know if you guys are also encountering any kind of latency or slow responsiveness out of the TV app. And I honestly remember the app feeling faster before. I'm simply showing you what I'm getting on my setup right now in 2026. The problem is that I'm seeing that sluggishness in the actual lighting as well. So that's why let's compare all three setups we talked about. I'm keeping everything as consistent as possible here. Same Hue entertainment area, same lights, everything fully updated. I'm using a Hue Bridge Pro by the way, although you don't specifically need the Pro for Hue Sync, at least for this kind of setup. I'm only mentioning it so you know exactly what hardware I'm testing with. The Sync Box itself reports excellent signal quality as it's connected through Ethernet. The PC app for Hue updated to the latest version as well as the TV app. Everything is updated to the latest version and firmwares as of now. And all three solutions are running in game mode, maximum brightness and extreme intensity to be able to measure responsiveness. On the PC app, I'm also using high performance because for this first comparison, I want to see the best response each solution can give me. Now watch closely all of them. The Hue Sync PC one, when the image changes quickly, the lights move with it almost immediately. And that's exactly what I want. I don't want to notice the lighting trying to catch up with the image. I want it to feel connected to it. Now look at the Sync Box result. And this one is also really good. If I wasn't putting those directly next to each other, I'll be completely happy with either one. The transitions are smooth, the positioning looks good, and it keeps up really well with fast changes. Looking at them together, I did feel like the PC app had a tiny advantage. So instead of relying only on how it looked, I calculated the response difference from the footage. And that confirmed something important. These two are extremely close. During the clearest transitions, the PC app and Sync Box were generally only a few tenths of milliseconds apart, with the PC app having a slight advantage. So we are not talking about the PC app completely destroying the Sync Box. The PC app is slightly faster in my footage, but the Sync Box is right there with it. And considering the Sync Box is doing that externally without using the PC for the screen analysis, that's a really good result. Now watch the TV app. This difference is much easier to see. The colors themselves generally aren't the problem. It's when they arrive. Look at this transition. The image changes, the PC app and Sync Box move into the new color, and the TV app is still finishing the previous one. Then it catches up. And on some transitions, the change itself also feels more drawn out. It almost looks like the lighting is hanging onto the previous state instead of moving continuously with what's happening on screen. Again, I calculated the response differences from the footage. And during some of the clearest transitions in this comparison, the TV app was roughly 300 milliseconds further behind than the PC app and Sync Box. That's not a tiny difference anymore. You can actually see it without sitting there trying to analyze every little change. And that's really the issue. With ambient lighting, getting the correct color is only half the job. The color also needs to arrive at the right time. If the image has already moved on while the lights are still reacting to the previous second, the effect starts feeling disconnected. So from this first test, the Hue PC app is the fastest in my footage. The Sync Box 8K is extremely close, and the TV app is noticeably slower on my current S90H setup. Now let's go back to the PC app, because if the free app is giving me the best response and letting me keep my full refresh rate, what am I actually giving up by using it? For this benchmark, I'm using Counter-Strike 2 at 1080p in low settings with an RTX 5090 and Ryzen 9950X3D2. I specifically wanted this benchmark to be heavily CPU bound. If I tested a demanding game at 4K with the GPU completely maxed out, the GPU could become the bottleneck and hide some of the CPU overhead. Here instead, I want that the CPU overhead to be easier to expose itself. I've run it on all three different options, including turning off the Hue Sync PC app. I'm simply comparing the same test while changing the Hue Sync performance setting. With the Hue Sync completely off, I got 786 FPS average, while when having the option set on low performance, 751 FPS. That's around a 4.4% reduction. Normal performance gave me 746, that's around 5.1% lower. And with high performance, 738. That's roughly a 6% reduction compared to the Hue Sync being completely disabled. And the 1% loss follows the same general pattern. In this intentionally CPU-bound test, giving the Hue Sync more processing performance also increases the gaming performance cost. This does not mean you should expect every game to become 6% slower when you turn on Hue Sync. I made this benchmark to make sure that CPU overhead was easier to see. If you are playing a demanding game at 4K and you are completely GPU bound, the actual FPS difference could be much smaller. But it does also confirm that the desktop app isn't completely free from a performance standpoint. And that's exactly why the Sync Box still makes sense here. It takes that screen analysis workload away from the PC. The problem is that now I'm basically choosing between two different compromises. With the Hue Sync PC app, I have some CPU overhead. With the Sync Box 8K, I have that 144Hz refresh rate light sync ceiling on my high refresh rate PC setup. But there is also another question. If high performance costs more, does it actually make the lights better? So again, I compared between low, normal, and high directly. The only thing I'm changing here is the CPU performance setting. Starting with low, you can definitely see a difference. The colors are still generally right, it still works, but on fast changes, the lights take longer to follow what's happening. The previous color tends to hang around for longer before the new one takes over. Like there is a problem with transition. And honestly, the response on low started reminding me a little of what I've been seeing from the TV app lately. If minimizing CPU usage is your priority, that's obviously what low is there for. But personally, it's not the experience I'd choose. Then we move on to normal. This option is noticeably better. It's faster, smoother, and in a lot of scenes, it actually gets pretty close to high. For most people, I believe normal to be the most sensible balance. And finally, we have high performance. This is the one I personally prefer. Everything just feels more immediate. Fast changes are picked up quicker, movement tracks the image better, and the lighting doesn't hold onto the previous state for as long. And once again, I calculated the response differences. During some of the clearest transitions, low performance was roughly 100 to 150 milliseconds further behind high. Normal was much closer, generally within around 0 to 70 seconds depending on the transition. So that extra processing is actually doing something. In my benchmark, low cost around 4.4% in average FPS, normal around 5.1%, and finally high 6%. And as you move up through those settings, the lighting response also improves. So low gives you the smallest performance hit, but also the slowest response. Normal is the best balance, and high gives you the best synchronization. Personally, if I'm going to use the PC app, I'll probably go for high. Because if I'm turning Hue Sync on in the first place, I want the lighting to feel properly connected to the game. But there was one thing I wanted to check. Everything we have looked at so far involved only the PC. So maybe something about the PC setup itself was contributing to how slow the TV app looked. The easiest way to answer that was to use it on a different device, such as a gaming console like PS5. And this time we are only comparing the Hue Sync Box 8K against the Hue Sync TV app. Same brightness, game mode set on both with extreme intensity to see the best responsiveness. Now look at the Sync Box. This is exactly what I think this product makes the most sense. The lights react quickly, and at 4K 120Hz on PS5, I'm not running into the refresh rate limitation I had on PC. So for the PS5, I believe it's a good setup. Now look at the Hue Sync TV app. It's not mainly the colors that bother me, it's the response. The Sync Box is already moving into the new lighting state while the TV app is still holding onto the previous color. Then the TV app starts changing, and sometimes it also takes noticeably longer to actually settle into the new state. So I calculated the response difference here too. On the clearest PS5 transitions, the TV app was roughly 120 to 150 milliseconds slower than the Sync Box in reaching the new lighting state. And on some transitions, it took around 150 to 250 milliseconds longer to fully settle. So that slower trailing feeling isn't just something I'm imagining. It's actually showing up in the footage. And I'm still seeing the TV app fall behind the dedicated Sync Box. That's probably the result that disappoints me the most, because I really wanted the TV app to be the solution I could use for everything. On paper, it makes so much sense. No expensive external Sync Box, no PC performance hit, all your devices could work like consoles, PC, your native TV apps, everything is handled directly by the television without having to worry about any DRM protected content. Everything is handled directly by the television. If the responsiveness on my S90H was on the same level as a Sync Box or PC app, I'd probably use the TV app almost all the time. But right now, unfortunately, I can't. The app interface itself feels slower, the lights react later, and the transitions take longer. Again, that's my current experience with this S90H. I'm not saying every Samsung or LG TV behave exactly the same way. It could be different. So that's why let me know if you have a better experience using this TV app. And because Philips is still actively updating the application, I'm hoping this is something that improves over time. And I'll keep you guys updated if it ever does. Because if they can get the responsiveness at least closer to the other two solutions, the TV app becomes a much more compelling option. At this point, I believe it should be free. So after all of this, if you are mainly a PC gamer, I'll go with the Hue Sync desktop app. It's free, and with high performance, it gives me the fastest and the smoothest synchronization in this comparison. You also get third-party integration from Corsair and Razer, which is a nice bonus for a PC setup. The trade-off is that your PC is doing the processing, and DRM-protected desktop content can sometimes be another limitation. If you are mainly using a console or another HDMI device, I'll choose the Sync Box 8K. It's extremely responsive, In fact, in my testing, it's very close to the PC app. It doesn't use your CPU for screen capture, and with something like a PS5, it works really well. My biggest issue with it is simply high refresh rate PCUs. 144Hz works, while 165Hz doesn't. And then there is the Hue Sync TV app. It's the cleanest setup. It works with native TV apps and HDMI devices, but right now also the least responsive out of the three. In the three-way comparison, I measured it falling roughly 300 milliseconds further behind during some of the clearest transitions. And this is actually the part I'm more interested to hear from you about. If you are using the Hue Sync TV app, tell me which Samsung or LG TV you are using and how responsive it is for you. Because if yours is noticeably faster than what I'm getting here, I really would like to know. And if Philips improves the app in a future update, I'll test it again and let you guys know, because I still believe that the native TV app has the most potential. When the sync is fast and everything is working properly, it's generally one of my favorite parts of my setup. I just want the easiest solution to also be one of the best. If this video and comparison helped you figure out which Hue Sync solution makes more sense for your setup, drop a like, subscribe to take us all, and I'll see you in the next one.